everybody, it is Romania Black, and after last week's episode, where do we go to from here? Tanaka's Revolution was amazing. We are on episode 5 of Odd Taxi, and yeah, episode 4 was great. It's my favorite episode so far. Getting an entire episode about Tanaka and framing his entire character, showing he's going to be a main presence in all of this, and what comes out of that, I don't know, but it's gonna be crazy, right? So we're on episode 5 of Odd Taxi. I don't have a lot of comments, which I am appreciating that people are being very sparingly with their comments. They're like, we don't want to spoil anything. And I want to give a shout out to Cough Me, because Cough Me has agreed to be the moderator for this series. Thank you. With a series like this, I need a moderator really bad. So I appreciate that. And so they've been really great so far. The only comment I have to talk about is H Banana 7's comment for episode 2, saying, I realized all of their names have the sound or kanji of their appearance. Like Baba has horse, and Eiji has monkey, and Goriki has gorilla. Which, again, that's all they said, so it's not really alluding to anything. But if we go back to my comment about episode 2, where I wondered, like, are these characters, is everybody in this series actually human, and we're just seeing it from Odokawa's perspective on what they look like? And also Shimoyama and M and others in the Discord have been very kind to me, because I was saying Odokawa, and then I think I was saying Odokawa, and then someone in the comments said Odogawa, and I thought I was saying it wrong. So I've been all over the place with how to say our dear taxi driver's name, but it's Odokawa, and I'm going to do my best to not mess that up in the future. Here's fingers crossed, right? I'm sorry. I know for some people, reactors messing up the names gets under their skin so much. I am notoriously terrible at pronunciation, so I'm glad y'all bear with me. That's really good to know. But yeah, but that's the only comment that I have. After last episode, now if we go back to episode 3, Eiji has started this weird relationship with an 18-year-old that I'm very much against. I don't think that's going anywhere good. And he was being trailed by 2 other guys. I don't think that's going anywhere good. We'll see where that goes. Dobu had put a gun up to Odokawa, but he got out of it. But in the same vein, he's been trying to get closer to Shirakawa, but we don't know about this guy Yano. And now Tanaka has in his sights that he wants to kill Odokawa. So I don't know. It's a big mystery, and there's still lots of parts that we don't exactly know what to do with. So that's pretty much what I am. But I woke up this morning, I poured myself a cup of coffee, and I said, today is Odd Taxi Day, so let's get into it. And that's what we're going to do. So with that being said, I'm super excited. I hope you all are as well. Before we start, real quick, I want to give a shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. Thank you all on Patreon so much for supporting me. Y'all are the only revenue I get in this channel, so anybody that supports me on Patreon is amazing, and you all are doing great work. Now, obviously, those of you on YouTube that are liking and subscribing and commenting on the videos, you all are amazing as well. I get it. Not everybody has Patreon funds. Totally understand, but I want to give a shout out to those in the philanthropy tier for going above and beyond and just being awesome people and supporting a little bit extra per month to help me with the channel. So Alex Cornejo, Be Happy, Bisa, as well as Damage3245, Dana, Danger Zone, Devorin, Destiny Marie, Ichu, Eric, El Cuno, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, Elfreya, Linden, Liam Posel, Matthew Palfinier, Murphew, as well as Willie Morris, Daniel, Sunspots, Shimayama, and Translucent Men. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love, as you all know. So yes, so we're going to get started with this episode and just see what we get. So thank you all for joining me for Odd Taxi. It's been a great ride so far, and we're only like a third of the way through. So we've introduced all the characters. Now we gotta see what we're gonna get with those characters. And I'm a little bit worried about Tanaka. But we're gonna start that here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. Ooh. This episode was entirely set up. This episode was set up for so many things. And I went back through episodes 1 through 4, and the cat moment that Odokawa is talking about is not in any footage we've seen so far. So that's something that's happened before this series has started. But we're going to need to talk about this because lots of things are being set up. I'm concerned. We're not even halfway through the series yet. So this episode is called Don't Call Me an Idol, which basically means like there's a lot of characters being idolized. There's a lot of characters being put onto pedestals, and they should not be put on pedestals. So let's see. Who's being idolized? Well, we're going to put the idols, quote unquote, over here in a row, and we'll just talk about them as we go throughout the series. And then over here, we're going to put up what is the setup. What are the setups that are happening in this episode? So we have the manager. I also think that it's hilarious that these are all animals, but then there's like a fried chicken stand. So, okay, Mitsuya. So we have our manager. Let's put down our manager. Our manager he's sort of being like, he's not an idol himself, but he wants to take credit for being the one to put the idol on their like pedestal, essentially. They want to take credit and be like, it was me that jettisoned them to stardom. It was my responsibility. I was the one that did it. I get the credit. And he kind of wants to assume that for himself, which, you know, those type of people that do that, karma has a funny way of getting back at them. So we'll see where that goes. But let's see who he talks to. He talks to Mitsuya. I think it also is interesting because sometimes the characters, depending on their relationships, we see like who they're he's like, I told you the lesson starts at 7. I'll come pick you up. Stay there. Okay. So apparently Odokawa is one of the only taxi cab drivers in this entire town, except for the guy has Tanaka driven around, which, dude, do you not realize how creepy what you've done is? Like, the taxi cab driver's like, oh, you want me to follow that taxi? Okay, cool. You want me to go by this house? Cool. Like, red flags all over. Maybe hopefully he has a dash cam as well, right? So the manager like tries to get Odokawa in a rush, and he's like, no. He's like, I have to get to the studio in time. And he's like, you'll make it. And he's like, I'm picking up 2 people. And he's like, okay, that's fine. Interestingly enough, so the manager is trying to have control over the 3 girls. Which is, that phrasing in itself is creepy. I don't like it. But he wants to have control over the 3 girls and essentially micromanage, which is part of his title, and micromanage their career. I like that Odokawa also just doesn't speed. He like goes as decent as possible. So we get in front of this station and the one girl gets into the cab. So, okay, someone has given her a phone. Oh, to plant. Oh, what? Let's go back to that. Go back to that. Okay, there's another stop here. I missed that. There's a stop here. Is it a car or another cab? She nods and is given a phone by someone with gray skin and we don't know who it is. Who is it? Okay, so the one girl, so girl number 1, which I'm assuming is Mitsuya, is the black cat. She's been given a phone to plant in the cab by someone with gray skin, gray fur, whatever. But okay, I want to go back and see. I don't think it's Tanaka though, right? Now I have to go back and look. Okay, now I have to go back and look. I don't obviously want spoilers, but I want to say, okay, but it could be Tanaka though. Yeah, because you can see a little bit of dinginess on the hoodie. Okay, but, it's to track. It's to track the cab and where it's going. Okay, crap. So the phone is given to her from Tanaka. Why did she take it from Tanaka? Does she know him? Why would she accept it? What is happening? So she gets the phone from Tanaka to plant and track Odokawa's location. Okay. And he was using the phone to confirm it, and that's his phone, presuming that he gives to her. Why did she accept it? Why was she like, okay, sure, that seems weird, but I'll do it? Why? What? Okay. So that was a thing. And then, yep, and there's the cab that she gets from him. Okay. So that's all explained now. Okay. And he's like, hey, over here. Like, don't get in that cab, get in this one. Okay. So that all is explained. So they take off, and she's like, where's my fried chicken? And he's like, oh, here it is. So the fried chicken has some importance to it. Now, I hate the idea of modeled standards and the idea of like, if you gain 5 kilos, you're fired from eating the fried chicken. As somebody who has had an eating disorder and has a very poor image of their own body, I'm very frustrated when I hear people just casually say like, oh, don't get fat. I'm like, that has such an impact on people, and it pisses me off so much. And I'm just like, the model standard is bullshit, and I hate it. So anyway, she says, I'm from Oita. And he's like, well, does that mean everyone from Hokkaido likes soup curry? And she's like, I have an attachment to it. It's my soul food. And he's like, what's soul food? And she says, it's a feeling. And the manager's like, it's like local cuisine or the taste of your mother's cooking, right? And then she says, yeah, the fried chicken my mom used to make was so good. And then she seems kind of sad about it because her mom seems to have passed away. So I wonder is she a sibling to the girl that went missing? Because Odokawa seemed to kind of be like, he seemed to kind of think, oh, well, the girl that I have in my apartment happens to like the same things that you do and has an affection towards fried chicken as well. I don't think it's the same girl. Now that we see them together, I don't think that she's the one that went to Odokawa's house, but I think she might be a sibling or a relative. That's very possible. And she asks if Rui is coming, and she complains that she thinks Rui's getting special treatment. And he's like, well, didn't you promise your mom you'd follow your dreams when you come to Tokyo? The manager is straight up manipulating them, and he's manipulating her. So he is basically trying to manipulate based on, which is disgusting, manipulating based on the dead mom. He's like, well, you promised your mom you'd do your best when you came to Tokyo, so let's not complain about Rui. She's not important. And I'm like, that's such a crazy manipulation. And then she's like, well, no, wait. And when she looks over the fried chicken restaurant, she sticks the phone in the cushion and then gets out. And he's like, well, head inside and start practicing by yourself. He's like, you're the newest Mitsuya. Okay, yeah. And she gets in. So then he asks Ichimura, where are you? And he's like, are you at a public bath? So we get to know. And he's like, well, go get him. Go get her there. And so Odokawa's like, why are we not picking these girls up at the same place? And he's like, it requires careful consideration. Well, basically careful manipulation. This guy is trying to micromanage the situation with all 3 of them. And his whole goal is that he wants to prop up. So the manager basically wants to prop Rui as the idol, right? Wants to prop Rui as the idol, and he wants to do it by using Mitsuya and Shiho. He's basically like, well, you know, she could stand out on her own, but it's kind of like Destiny's Child. You know, Beyonce shines even brighter when she's by Michelle and the other one. So it really is that. He's trying to make Rui the Beyonce of Destiny's Child. But I would argue, I kind of am with Odokawa, I'm like, eventually Beyonce's going to stand on her own, and the other 2 are not going to be part of that. So I feel like Odokawa is kind of calling him out, being like, but eventually she's going to go off on her own. So why are you making these other 2 girls miserable? And it shows the manager has just no consideration of the other 2 girls, right? He's like, I think it's better to keep them separate. So we learn a little bit about Shiho. We learn that we learn a little bit about Shiho. She's girl number 2. And we have this setup that she is one of many siblings, and she values her alone time and wants to I feel like her marrying is her getting away from her family. She wants to go on her own. But I feel like because she's from a big family, she knows that resources are important and support is important. So she wants to get married as soon as she can to be financially stable, but also be able to get away from her family and be secure in that. So, because her family could argue, well, if you're by yourself, you don't have a lot of money, we're not helping you because we don't have the resources ourselves. You're only going to get so far and then you're going to have to come back to us. And she wants to avoid that. So her marrying off is a way of her getting out of that family situation and finding her own independence, oddly enough, through marrying somebody else, which is going to tie into Eiji, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, he's like revisiting the baths again. So he's like, take us back to that studio. And Odokawa's like, well, this is weird. And then Odokawa instantly knows who that girl is. He knows it's the one that's been hitting on Eiji, but he's not saying anything because he knows that that could be dangerous for Eiji. So he's like, And he's like, I've seen you before. Now, and then the one guy, the manager's like, where would you have seen her? He's like, maybe on TV. He's like, if you recognize her face, you must have come to her concert before the debut because she wears a mask and keeps her face. Is she an idol or something? And he's like, well, that's not it then. I've never been to a concert. Ever, apparently. And so the manager's like, well, let's just forget what happened. Let's not focus on it. You know, you don't need to worry about her. I'm sure you've seen lots of things. And then she asks if Rui's coming. And it seems like, in comparison to Mitsuya, Shiho kind of understands a little bit more. She gets that Rui is ambitious and Rui wants to go out on her own. And Shiho is very insecure with herself and doesn't believe that she can do what Rui can do. And he's like, well, work at your own pace. And she's like, well, she's incredible. I bet she'd kill someone just to get ahead, and probably already has. And I'm like, well, if that's not ominous foreshadowing, I think Rui would and maybe has killed someone as well. So I don't know if Rui's killed someone, but I feel like that was the biggest ominous foreshadowing, that Rui is capable of such things, or Rui is capable of getting involved with people that could kill on her behalf, is the better way to put it. And I was like, ooh, Shio, uh-oh. And so then, and Odokawa's like, should I be knowing this? She's like, maybe I'm not suited for this job. And he's like, oh, no, you can't leave the group. She's like, I don't know what my purpose is anymore. I'm not good at dancing like Mitsuya. And he's like, well, you've got your own strengths. And she's like, well, like what? And he's like, oh, well, you know. He's like, you're charming and innocent, which has nothing to do with being in a band. You got a cute face. And she's like, well, don't I wear a mask because I'm not cute, though? I mean, girl drops the bomb. She's kind of self-aware of the deal that's going on. He's like, well, that's just an agency strategy. He's like, yeah, it's just for now. And like, he is lying through his teeth trying to make this work when Shiho's kind of, she's on to the game. I feel like the black cat Mitsuya is still going along with it because he's manipulated her emotionally about her mom. But with Shiho, she doesn't have something he can manipulate, so he's just trying to prey on her insecurities to keep her in there. But she's kind of about at the breaking point, right? And she's like, exchanging messages with old dudes is exhausting too. And then he stops her and says, hey. And do I think that he knows that Ichiji, that Eiji, I mean, do I think that the manager knows that Eiji and Odokawa are friends? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he was stopping her because he doesn't want her talking about her private life or dating life to a common civilian that could leak that information to the public, and that could be scandalous. Because maybe, obviously, the manager knows about her and Eiji because he was following them at the end of episode 3. He was following them at the bus stop, so he knows that she's seeing this guy. Do I think that he knows that Eiji and Odokawa are friends? Not necessarily, but I think that he is aware she's dating this rich guy, potentially for money and potentially to scam him. So I think that the manager knows that Shiho is just gold digging for a sponsor, Because if you recall, in the last several episodes, they talked about how the debut isn't as successful as Rui wants it to be. She wants them to have more devoted fans like Imai, who just won the lottery. Oh, buddy, we're going to talk about that. So, what luck. The one guy that's obsessed with Rui just won the lottery, which is, that's kind of the crazy part, is that Shiho talks about she wants what Rui has. And she's been trying to imitate that she's like, well, Imai is this big fan of Rui. He loves her, supports her in whatever she does. She's like, I need to get a devoted fan that's just as committed as Imai is. So she's tried to get Eiji on board, and she's like, well, I'll one up Rui by dating this successful older man that's got lots of money, and then I'll have something that Rui doesn't have. And the problem is that that's a lie. Eiji doesn't have the money. He's lying. So that's going to blow up in her face when she figures that out. And then it's going to be like pouring salt into an open wound, because Imai now is like a billionaire and has all this money and is exactly what Shiho wanted, but now Rui has it. And it's like, so yeah. And we're going to see where that goes. We'll talk about that when we see the billionaire thing. But okay, so they focused on the dash up there by the dash cam in Odokawa's taxi. He has a pin that looks just like the Mystery Kiss pin. I'm assuming it's like merchandise related to the band. The pin that is what the manager has in his briefcase. It's the same pin. So somebody connected to Mystery Kiss has given Odokawa that pin. I assume it's the woman that was in the apartment. So that's why I thought she was the dancer of the group. I thought they were the same person, but they clearly are not the same person. So I think maybe they're siblings or related, or it's somebody that works inside Mystery Kiss, somebody on the inside. We'll see. But yeah. And she's like, I don't like her. She's like, Mitsuya's inside. She's like, I don't like her. I liked things better before. So he talked about how Mitsuya is the newest band member. I wonder if the sister that Odokawa knows was the original, and then the sisters replaced her. I don't know. But she complains about it, and he's like, your innocence is your strength, but consider the time, the place, and the occasion. And he's like, drive me to the office and call me Meguru. And Odokawa's like, this is just weird. Odokawa's like, this is a weird setup. This guy's doing shady business. I don't like it. I'm going to charge him a lot. He charges him, 11,000 yen? So if I do yen to USD, we're going to keep this up when we get to the lottery ticket. It was like 11,000 yen. It was like a $74 taxi cab ride, which is a pretty expensive taxi cab ride, all things considered. So then this cab driver, who's like, well, boy, I'm delighted. I'm like, do you not realize how creepy this is? Like, he's like, I'm delighted. As a taxi driver, that's the number one thing I want someone to say to me. Follow that car. He's like not seeing the obvious foreshadowing that is creepy with this moment. And then, I'm sorry, but if I looked at Tanaka with those eyes in the back seat, I'd be a little freaked out. I'd be a little bit like, something seems a little amiss. So he's like, I thought for a second they were going to like get up beside them and Tanaka was going to try to fire that gun at Odokawa. I really thought that was going to happen. And I think if the manager hadn't been in the taxi, he might have. But I think that the manager being there stopped him from doing that. So he's like, it's hard work. And Odokawa's like, really? So Rui Nikaido is pure carbon gemstone. I love that Odokawa's like, just call her a diamond. Just call her a diamond. And he was like, well, she's not a diamond in the rough. She's the real deal. She's a proper gemstone. And he's like, well, then just promote her alone. And he's like, that's not how things work these days. While I feel bad for the girls you drove earlier, you need people to prop up a gemstone so it can shine even brighter. In other words, I'm a jewelry designer working with the gemstone. Ugh. I very much do not like this manager considering these girls as objects. And I know it's a metaphor, and I know he's just using it in the context of the conversation, but I really do think that he believes they're just objects he can manipulate. And that's not cool, and gross, and it happens in real life, and it's like, don't like it at all. And I know he's trying to like go with, he talked about the industry standards, they have to be pop idol groups, but you can tell that Odokawa does not have respect for him as well. He's like, just call it a diamond. Like, let's just be real here. So he asks the driver if he can get his business card and says, I want to use you as the person to drive us around because you seem like you're not going to say anything. And I like that Odokawa is like, I'm not always going to be available. Don't get your hopes up. Odokawa doesn't say no. He doesn't say no because it's business. And also I think he feels for these girls and maybe wants to keep an eye on them because Odokawa can't help but get a little bit involved. But he's like, I may have dates with Shirakawa, so no. So he gives him the card. He gives him the card there, and it has, it says Hiroshi Odokawa and has his telephone on it. Okay. And he's like, oh, also, can I put my flyer in your cab? Which is pretty standard. I could see that, like, as advertising. And he's like, really? And it says, he's like, do people actually want them? I wouldn't have to work so hard if success came easily. And it says, is your office in Kamimeguro, the place with the bar on the first floor? And he says, yeah. He's like, do you know it? He's like, I was thinking I once drove a girl there. And then the manager's like, wait a minute. You drove a girl there. I didn't okay that. I didn't know about that. Because this manager seems a little bit like a control freak. Like he wants to know every movement these girls make. So him not knowing about this, he's like, wait, what? What bar? What thing? He's like, when? He's like, 2 weeks ago, I think. She must have been from your agency. And the manager, you can tell, kind of looks over like he's trying to think and remember it. And he's like, well, it's probably one of the girls you drove today. And he goes, no. He's like, the only group we manage is Mystery Kiss. He's like, maybe. Girls that age, especially ones trying to be idols, all look the same to me. Which you can tell that we're talking about like if Odokawa has like a facial recognition or some kind of like visionary recognition disorder or something, and that's why everybody's animals. It's very understandable that all the girls looking like, to be fair, I get it. Most of the like TikTok influencer girls that just look like, for lack of better words, basic bitches, they all look the same to me. And I'm like, oh, cool. You have a bleached ponytail and a sweater and like the same nails, the same lip color. They all look like carbon copies. So I get that. I get what he means. I would feel the same way. But he says, you said you recognized the second girl, Shiho. And he's like, no, I don't recognize her from that. He's like, no, I know her from something else. He says she's a calico cat. The other girl was a little different. And again, he's like, who would that be? I wonder if it's the girl. I wonder if Odokawa, if the mystery girl, is it Rui? Or is it the girl from the apartment? And he dropped her off there at some point or picked her up from there. Although I thought they said a few episodes ago the girl was picked up from a convenience store. So I don't know. But the manager is kind of freaked out by the fact that somebody's been there at the office without his knowledge. He's a little bit worried about that. And he's like, this is it, right? And he's like, you're sure? And he's like, you dropped off that girl here. You sure it was at this office? And he's like, yes. So the manager asks to get the dash cam footage and says, do you have a recording device? And Odokawa's like, well, yes. And he starts like, you get the little sweat drops on Odokawa as the conversation goes on. The question is, this is from 2 weeks ago when he was talking about it. Was this before? I'm assuming it was before Dobu confiscated the data. Right? We're assuming it was before. It could have been after, but I'm assuming the video camera's been given back. And he's like, why? He's like, in stories about robberies. And he's like looking directly at the camera as he says that. He's like, yeah, I've got one. He's like, can I get your data? It might have some interesting candid shots of the girls in a taxi for our next preview. And he's like, well, you could see their faces. He's like, oh, we'd edit around that. Like bullshit, you would edit around it. Odokawa knows exactly what this guy wants. And he's like, I don't know if I can give you that data. I need to check on privacy issues and settle those first. And then maybe we'll talk. Which is a pretty convincing, a a pretty convincing story. So the manager's like, okay, fine. I'll be in touch. I appreciate your cooperation regarding today and going forward. And that's when you see the pin. So yeah, he's like, I'm not sure I'm that interested, so don't worry. But yeah, so curious. And then he goes back into his house and pulls up the taxi. And that's when the other taxi, like, pulls up around him. And he's like, thank you for riding. And then we see the camera in the seat. And God, you can see Tanaka's phone has the crack in the screen. It's Rent-A-Girlfriend all over again. Fix your damn screen. Ah! But now, this is the creepiest part of all about this episode to me. This is the creepiest part about the episode. Tanaka got to his house. Tanaka got to Odokawa's house. Pinged the location to confirm it. Was outside his home with a gun and didn't do anything. That's creepy as shit to me, because that means he knows where Odokawa lives. He can show up at any time. He has a gun. He could hurt him. That freaks me out. No. Don't like that at all. Nope. I hate that. Nope. Don't like it. So then we see the three girls, the Calico, Rui, and the other girl there. I feel like the Calico in that one shot, her hair, her fur looks a little more orange in that shot than it is in the episode, but I think that's just the coloring. So I thought there was going to be a confrontation between Odokawa and Tanaka. Of course, they're not going to give us that in episode 5. They're going to make us wait for that because they're like sadists. So instead we go to the clinic. Now here's the thing. If Tanaka is keeping track of the phone, Tanaka could determine all the places that Odokawa is going and map it out. So that's slightly creepy. So Goriki calls him in. He's like, clinics at night are terrifying. Agreed. And he's like, have you been sleeping well, Odokawa? And he's like, well, thanks to you, I haven't. He's like, I haven't been. He's like, you haven't prescribed me any more medication. And he's like, what's with calling me at this hour? And he's like, well, you could go to another clinic that gives you the same medication. If I were a hairdresser, maybe I would think, I've been building my vision for this guy's hairstyle for so long that this asshole went to another salon. He ruined everything. But I don't run a salon. I run a clinic. And he's like, well, why are you trying to get me to go somewhere else? Right? Now, the one thing that stuck out in this episode to me is that Shirakawa had talked about him being missing, right? And that Goriki was missing, and it was a thing, and she was worried about it. During this conversation, they don't really bring up that conversation, but I wonder if Goriki was going like to an attorney or to a business office or something. I don't know how Japan works with businesses and shutting them down or changing them or whatever, but I feel like maybe Goriki was missing, quote unquote, because he was trying to get his affairs in order of shutting the clinic down. And maybe that was it. And he just didn't tell her because he thinks that she's stealing the medicine. He won't come out and say it because he doesn't want to like have that on him. But, but he is, I think, thinking it. He's like, I'm going to close down the clinic for a while. He's like, my medications aren't adding up. I wonder if maybe he's not been giving Odokawa the medication because he doesn't have it, or he doesn't have enough, or he doesn't want to implicate Odokawa in the situation. So that's interesting and a possibility. He's like, this has been happening for a long time and it's an inside job. If it gets out, I'll go from victim to perpetrator. So I'm thinking about closing the clinic so I can pretend it didn't happen. So I close it and start all over again without having to worry about it. Because, yeah, I can kind of get where Goriki's coming from. If he did say something, he would be on the suspect list. And he's not a suspect. He's not been stealing it. But he can't risk his reputation as a practitioner. It's like he's wanting to save himself in the process. He wants to protect himself. And he's like, yes. He's like, but you're not doing this to protect Shirakawa. And he's like, well, nobody said it was Shirakawa. And Odokawa's like, but she has money problems and it's probably her. If you think, Odokawa kind of sees through it. He's like, you don't want to admit it, but you and I both know it's her. You just said it was an inside job. She has money problems. She has the alibi. She has the reason, that it would make sense. Odokawa's seen her with Dobu. exchanging drugs, he's like, it's her. And you know it. So, which honestly though, Gariki shutting the clinic down, it's not protecting Shirakawa because she's not going to have access to the medicine anymore. So Dobu's probably going to hold her up and be like, where's the rest of the medications that you told me you'd get me? And she could be put in danger because of that. But it's kind of complicated because at the same time, Gariki's not turning her in or making her a suspect. So it's complicated, but I appreciate Odokawa saying that, yes, you're protecting yourself in all situations by closing this clinic down. You can't be held liable. You're not going to have to take action. Your reputation is saved. You can start over again. But I also appreciate Odokawa saying, but by doing this, you are potentially putting Shirakawa in danger, but you're hiding it under the guise of you being a nice person and not getting her arrested in the first place. So it's complicated. But yeah, so then Odokawa says, I remember something. While I was dropping off that hippo guy who's going to come back in this, he's like, I saw Dobu and Shirakawa in an alley at night together. Now, Gariki's like, well, how could you know by just looking at the back of her head? And he's like, no, I could tell her it was her. That is a little scandalous because that's revealing to Gariki that no, sure, Odokawa's been around her enough to know it's her. And he's like, oh, okay, so you've seen her outside of this office? Okay. And I mean, she was doing all those moves in front of him, so he would be able to see her head and everything to kind of know it's her, but there is an implication of have they met outside of what we've seen? Maybe. He's like, you've changed, Odokawa. You've warmed up. And so he's like, I gotta go meet somebody somewhere, so bye. So, not that this power plant next to a river bank that looks oddly like somewhere that a Yakuza would drop a body is suspicious, but him meeting Dobu there is really suspicious. The only thing that made me feel not as concerned this episode is because Dobu doesn't have a gun. He doesn't because Tanaka has his gun. So we know that. So Dobu's kind of just, he talks about ways he'd kill Odokawa, but he doesn't have a gun, so it's really like, I think Odokawa could take Dobu. I think he could. I could be wrong, but I think he could take him. He's like, couldn't you pick a better place to meet? And he's like, what's wrong with here? He's like, it's creepy. So Dobu wants to know who wants the dash cam data. He's like, who is it? And he's like, well, I thought we had a deal in this. And then they have the whole thing about the magic lamp and the wishes and about the questions. So he's like, I thought we had a deal. And he's like, has there always been an Orvis speed camera here? So I like Odokawa tries to like take, the tension off the situation. And so he says, are you and Shirakawa connected? And Dobu's like, yes. And Oda's like, well, you used her to threaten me. So what are we doing about this? He's like, did you have Shirakawa approach me? Now, it is very important to note, Shirakawa was not told by Dobu to approach Odokawa. That was on her own. So to me, that says that she genuinely likes Odokawa. She genuinely likes him. She approached him on her own. And I'm glad that Odokawa got that answered for him to know that he's not being played around with. She genuinely does like him, which is cool. I like that. But she's like, Shirakawa has been stealing from the clinic. And you've been selling those drugs illegally, am I right? And he's like, well, that's mostly correct. And Odokawa's like, well, that's cheap work. No wonder Yano looks down on you. I was like, damn, you insult Dobu to his face. And he's like, I'm shouldering Shirakawa's debt and she's paying me back. That's all there is to it. And that makes sense. Like, if that's how she figured she could, that is the least criminal way she could think to pay him back without like hurting someone is just to steal the medicine. That all tracks, right? And Odokawa's like, I don't want to work with you. I don't want to be involved in this. And Dobu says, I lost something important that the boss gave me. And recently a video of some amateur claiming he'll catch me has gotten 10 million views. I'm having an awful time. So that, they mentioned that before we even get to the Hippo Kid. So the video is targeting Dobu. We'll talk about it. And Dobu has talked about losing something important that the boss gave him, which I think is the gun. I think the gun is what the boss gave him and told him not to lose. And he's like, shit, I've lost my gun. What do I do? Because, I mean, it's not the dash cam data. He got all that, but he did lose the gun to Tanaka. So Dobu's just having a rough time being a petty criminal. He's like, if you don't get the name of the guy who wanted the dash cam data, he's like, then I'll have to kill you. And he does threaten Odokawa and say, like, well, how am I going to do it? He's like, I'll tie you up and slowly fill a tub with water. He's like, I'm good at figuring out exactly what people don't like. And so Odokawa's like, I don't want to deal with this. He's like, I don't want to deal with this. It's Mystery Kiss's manager. And so Dobu's like, oh. And he's like, Yano, that asshole, he's sticking his paws into this too. So that leads us to believe that possibly Yano is tied to Mystery Kiss. Now, do I think it would be unheard of a syndicate organization having its ties to an idol group that can make them money, and there could be possibly money laundering and stuff under the table done illegally? No, it's not surprising. I would be that. But here's the thing. This is all just Dobu's speculation. Has Dobu been wrong about things? Yeah. So do we think we should believe Dobu for his word that he thinks, and he's also obsessed with Yano, so do we think that his assumption that Yano's involved with Mystery Kiss is correct? It could be, but also Yano's not exactly the most reliable narrator, so I don't know if we can totally take his word, right? So he's like, does this mean one of them is the boss's classmate's daughter? Well, here's the thing. I think the black cat and her sister are the boss's classmate's daughter. I think they are. It would be a good idea to sell him the data with the parts he wants cut from it. So basically Dope was talking about underselling the manager. Be like, sure, give the manager the data, but cut out the parts that he wants. So he'll pay you, but he's not going to get anything out of it. Typical petty thief ideals. But so Dobu basically believes that the missing girl, the apartment girl, and girl number 1 could be the same, but I don't think they are because Odokawa didn't react to her, so they could be siblings. I don't know. Odokawa also didn't say he could tell those girls apart, but then he suddenly knew the difference between one girl and the other going to the office, so there's so much unreliable narration in this, it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, he's like, I'm not getting involved in your businesses. Do what you want with the information. It's none of my business. He's like, are you really that upset about Shirakawa? And Odokawa's like, I don't want to talk about it. I like Odokawa and Shirakawa together as a couple, and so I'm sad we didn't get to see them in this episode, but I'm sure we'll see them in the future. Speaking of couples, we cut to this beautiful rose. The rose really stood out in this episode. It's very pretty, and they are at this very fancy restaurant, apparently. He's in a suit and tie. She's in a nice dress. They're eating like the most basic filet mignon, and he's like trying to eat it slowly, and then she gets her dessert and everything, and she's like cocky. I like she's calling him like a nickname. Do you come to places like this often? He's like, oh, maybe once a month. This restaurant seems extremely expensive, and he's like, he's like, maybe once a month. And she's like, I've never been anywhere like this. And he's like, oh, really? And then, which Eiji is like, he asks for more. He's like, could I get another glass, please? And everybody kind of laughs at it. And they're like, seriously, don't laugh. So he does not know the etiquette of this restaurant and how it works, right? Doesn't know how the etiquette works there, which shows that he's never been there before. And everybody's kind of laughing about it. And he's like, and she seems to like have figured it out. So Eiji, to his creepy credit, is trying to figure out, he's trying to like spark conversation, which I'm sorry, but a 41-year-old and an 18-year-old, there's too much of a maturity gap. It's not going to work out. Because he's like, when are you the happiest? And then she does talk about being in the baths and how it relates to her psyche of being like one of many siblings. And it was the only place I could be alone. And he's like, oh, you're poor, huh? I'm like, so are you, Eji. And she's like, I asked Santa for bath additives for Christmas. And he's like, oh, that's kind of cute. I'm like, bitch, she's still asking Santa for gifts. I want to slap AG so much because he should know this is not right. Right? And she's like, is the bath at your house amazing? Can you stretch your legs out? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And I got a TV too. Uh-huh. And she asks to visit, which he's like, oh, well, shouldn't we do things slow? Shouldn't we go to HEADPHONE or something? Like, go on this trip? And she's like, oh, can we take your private jet? And he's like, I'm not that rich. And when he says he's not that rich, she's like, which means that she's just trying to get financial security. And he asks if she's a college student, and she says yes. And he's like, why are you trying to get married? And she says, because my dream has always been to get married. And being surprised with an engagement ring would be amazing. AG's getting caught up in this and getting put into a corner, and that's not good. So then, Imai Nakaido, the fan account, says, I can't stop shaking. The numbers that he used from Odokawa ends up being, she's like, yeah, he ends up getting 1 billion yen. Do you think it's true? Uh-huh. I'm like, well, it could be. So 1 billion yen, if we do that, that's a million, is 600, oh man. So 1 billion yen is 6,769,330. So it's basically that $6.7 million. I mean, he's a millionaire now. Imai being a millionaire is amazing. And Odokawa's numbers being the one he gave him is absolutely wild. So that's going to be interesting to see what we do with Imai in this. Also, the fact that he's trying to have a conversation with her and she immediately jets to like media, such as a post on social media or a video on YouTube, and he is just having to watch. It shows that there's a disconnect in their interests, and what he's trying to have a conversation with her and she's trying to bring up media, which there's nothing wrong in what she's doing. I do that all the time in bringing up things, but you can just see like the way that they interact and communicate is there's such a gap there, and it's not quite compatible. And he's like, well, not even I have that much. So he doesn't have 6.7 million. She's like, oh, really? She's like, do you know about this then? Everyone's talking about it. So Declaration of War. I'll Catch Dobu by the End of the Year by Taichi Kabasawa. So we talk about the manager trying to prop Rui up as the idol. Then we have Imai as the millionaire. So then the question is going to be, is he going to treat Rui as an idol, or will it be vice versa? And will Rui treat him as an idol because she wants him to be a sponsor? We'll see. But then we also have the idea of Kabasawa is our name of our hippo man. Kabasawa has become this like internet idol for encouraging this vigilante justice against Dobu, which Dobu's a criminal. Dobu should get arrested and go to jail. He really should. But we're going to talk about this. This is so fascinating. He's like, I have this announcement, this 2-minute clip that he has, which is the end of the video. I will capture Dobu by the end of the year. And here's the thing. Vigilante justice, I feel kind of conflicted about it because coming from a small town whose own police force is not the best, I understand the idea of civilians wanting to take action into their own hands. The problem with that is that some of the civilians who are the most outspoken are kind of also full of shit. And Kabasawa is one of them. He just uploads this picture, and as Dobu in the background, he's like, I was interviewed by the media. So, some of you probably know about that. Some of you may be wondering if it's okay for me to use such a sensational title. And then he says, I'm not sure if he's a thug or a Yakuza member, but the police are after him. So he has no clue. He has no idea. Now we see Dobu talking to this gray cat is this gray cat in the picture of him talking to it, is she related to the office thing and that's what the manager was freaking out about? We don't know. We don't know. She could be. Is she the one that is potentially the girl that stayed at Odokawa's house? We don't know. We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, besides that picture being a possible clue, this kid, Kabasawa, has no idea about the man that he's threatening to kill and wants to capture. He has no clue about him. He doesn't know if he's a Yakuza member. He doesn't know if he's a thug. He just knows the police are after him, so he must be a bad guy. And that is so misinformed that it's dangerous, right? So then he says, according to the intel I've acquired, which we don't know where the hell he got that intel from, how reliable it is, if he even got intel, because he can't name who the source was. I'm a damn English teacher. If you can't name me your sources, then how the hell do I know you didn't just make this shit up? So he's like, I don't know if he's backed. I'm like, but your intel didn't even tell you if he's backed up by someone important. Your intel sounds like they knew nothing, and you're just throwing around the word intel to make you sound like you're informed when you don't know anything. But he's a bad dude, according to Kabasawa, that people think he's committed every crime under the sun. So he names off all of these crimes: theft, robbery, which I believe, fraud, assault, which I believe, extortion, sexual assault. Now, the sexual assault, we don't know. He threatens Odokawa, and he threatens people Odokawa's close to, so it could be. And then he says, placing rocks on railway tracks, arson, kidnapping, and murder. And then he says, oh, I guess the rocks on the tracks stands out from the rest. Which, the fact that the least offensive crime is the one that stands out, tracks. But, again, he doesn't know. He's like, as a matter of fact, I know people who were beaten half to death by Dobu. But by what source? Who are those people? Name names. And he's like, I heard about it from a friend of a friend. It's possible that some of you have met one of his victims. That is a logical fallacy in itself, because you don't know. You're just throwing it out. It's like, just tear apart the straw man. And Dobu's not innocent. He has committed crimes, but it's almost worse when Kabasawa has no freaking idea what he's talking about, and he's just basing everything he knows off of rumors and intel that he can't verify a source from so that we know it's credible. And the scary thing is, this came out in 2021. There are people that do this now, and people believe it. And they don't use any critical thinking of their own to verify if what's being said is true. They just believe a rumor outright with no evidence. And that's so dangerous because people could get hurt. And Kabasawa taking credit and becoming this like faux idol is so terrifying, right? And he's like, oh, I've been looking for a job for a while, but when I asked myself what I really want to do, I didn't want to ride packed trains. Can you call that a living? While thinking about my life, I recalled a dream I had as a kid. I wanted to be a hero who helped people in trouble. And I'm sure you guys did too. So again, as someone that teaches rhetoric, this is like manipulation that's effective in relating to your audience, being like, well, you want what I want, right? Like, it's trying to establish this like emotional connection to the audience in giving yourself credibility because you can connect. And I'm like, but it's not right. He's like, he'll apologize. I'll make him apologize. I'll upload a video of him on his knees. This is the part that I got a little bit, because I was like, okay, Kabasawa wants to catch Dobu. He wants to be a vigilante detective, researcher, investigator. Okay, kid, sure. But then he said this. He's like, I'll upload a video of him on his knees. I'm like, bitch, this man's a potential murderer in your eyes. You're going to put a murderer on his knees when you could barely get out of a taxi without freaking out about an upload not getting enough retweets? What? And then he says, I'll rehabilitate him, which, if you are not a licensed certified counselor, physician, someone that works in rehabilitation, you have no right to say anything like that. And then the moment he says rehabilitate him, he stabs him in the face. And he says, if the law can't punish him, then I will. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't rehabilitate him and punish him. Those are contradictory. So essentially, my frustration is that Kabasawa is full of shit and is not going to be able to do anything that he's promised in this video, but everybody's all riled up about it, and it's going to get somebody hurt. And the problem is, it might not even be Dobu. He's like, we will, including you, person watching this video. Like, it's a call to action, but the call to action is so out of touch and misinformed that it's dangerous. Together, we'll catch Dobu. I'm Maisai University student Taichi Kabasawa. Yeah, tell him what you're at the university, right? He's like, I won't run, I won't hide, I'll stand in the line of fire. I highly doubt that, but okay. And he says, I'm accepting any and all information, so help me. I like that the police are like, we've been asking for information and nobody's giving us anything, so okay. Crimes must be punished together, we shall defeat evil. Justice will win. And she's like, wow, this video's got a lot of praise to it. It's been viewed 10 million times. And people are saying he's so cool, he's godlike. And Kabasawa, I support you. It's crazy, right? And again, this is the thing. Like, because Shiho is 18 and her brain's not fully cooked yet, and she's still very much impressionable about what's being told to her, because I was 18 once too. I can relate. But it's like, girl, she is viewing this video from the mindset of an 18-year-old and thinking like, wow, he's so cool and awesome, and look at him being a vigilante, and like, look at all the great things he's doing. Eiji is looking at this from the mindset of someone my age now and realizing all the problems with this video. And I feel like it's a moment of him being like, oh, you and I are on very different wavelengths of understanding this, and our thinking skills are very different in this moment. And I feel like it's hit him like a ton of bricks how different they are. And so he's like, okay. And she's like, oh, that's all, huh? So he pulls the money out of his pocket like he just went to the bank to get the money. And she's like, you're not paying by card? Like, don't you have a credit card that you can buy me all the things? And he's like, oh, well, I deal with data all day, so I'd rather just, pay with cash when I interact with other people. Which, eccentric philanthropist, I could see that being a justifiable excuse. But then she's like, you don't even carry a wallet. And he's like, well, I had a Bottega Veneta, which, what is that? I want to find out. A fashion company wallet. Bottega Veneta. I want to find out how much those wallets are. Tell me. Oh, those are cute. I'm looking at this and realizing these are cute bags, but I'm dreading how much they are. So a small wallet in the men's section. How much is that? Holy shit. $720 for a small wallet. What's the highest they go up to? Ew, like $800 for a small wallet that just looks like a piece of leather? I will not understand men and women's like high fashion. I'm like, you could find it cheaper. And it's like, I understand paying for a high quality wallet. Like the leather wallet I have it's a Fossil brand. I will stand by them. I've had that same wallet for 20 years. I got it in high school and I've had that wallet for 20 years. The same wallet. It's leather and it's held up and it's never fallen apart. It has been legit for that long and I'll stand by it. But I didn't pay $790. It was like $60. And at the time as a high school student, that was a lot of money. But I was like, okay, this will last me for at least, my whole college career. And it's lasted me 20 years. Well invested. But you can find a good leather wallet for not $800. But he's like, I gave it to one of my subordinates. Sure. Okay. I could go on a rant of high-end fashion, but I'll choose not to. And she was like, okay. So what did he put on there? He put $40,000 yen on the table. How much was this meal of $40,000 yen between the two of them? Oh, $270. Yeah. So the meal was basically like probably $100 a person, or $120 a person. And you had like all the tip and the taxes. Yeah. So he pulled out of the bank account. We see like the little slip that fell to the ground, and it said a loan. He pulled out a loan, an 18% interest rate on the loan. Oh my God. The next payment there's 2 total payments. Oh my God. So he pulled out $100,000 loan to buy this dinner. How much was that if it was 100,000? He pulled out like a $700 loan to pay for this. Look, that's not good. That's not good at all. If you had to take out a loan for $700 and there's an 18% interest rate, that's not good, AG. AG's gonna get caught up in trying to pay off this loan and get involved in shady business, I feel. No. It's not gonna work out. I went on a date once, and I may have talked about this in a previous video, but I went on a date once with a guy, and I did not know this at the time, but it wasn't a great date. But he took me to this like Asian bistro, and we just had a typical meal, and he paid for it and everything. And then it was not good. He kind of reminded me a little bit of AG, this guy was, but he was my age, so he was like early 20s. But it just had the vibe of like he was trying to be somebody that he wasn't. And I found out later, after the date did not go well and we did not go on a second date, I found out that he was trying to like make people feel bad for him because he said he like sold his guitar so he could have money to take me out on a date. And I was like, that's his own problem. Like if he didn't have enough money to take a girl out on a date and pay for her meal that was like $20, that says a lot for you. And like, so the fact that he had to take out a loan to pay for like to get $700 to pay for to take her out on a date is to try to show her up. It's like you're being somebody that you're not, and that's going to blow up in your face. So I am worried about AG. I am worried about him because he's going to get caught, but I think he's so afraid of getting caught, he's going to do some messed up shit to try not to get caught. And I'm worried about this Kabasawa guy. He's going to get in trouble. He'll probably end up being fine, but his stuff is so dangerous. And then Dobu, and then Tanaka has the gun, and then Odokawa is getting caught up all in this. And I've talked for an hour about this episode. Anyway, no big deal. I'm terrified of what's about to happen, y'all, but I guess we'll find out. Anyway, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. I'm excited for episode 6. We're almost halfway through the series, and things are heating up, and I'm terrified. But anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm back real soon with more of Odd Taxi. Bye!